Welcome to 502 Sessions. I'm Brian Kirby. My guest today is Smilin Isaac. Smilin Isaac is a Boston-based band that is heavily influenced by math rock and jazz. With quick-moving guitar riffs, expressive drum lines, and soft, airy vocals, Smilin Isaac is a melting pot of musical ideas. More than anything, they are an exploration of time in music. They use frequent time signature changes within songs as devices to highlight the emotional peaks and valleys of the music. By layering different time signatures within one musical phrase, Smilin Isaac challenges the notion of what listeners perceive as natural meter. Smilin Isaac is Corinne Elicone on vocals and keyboard, Caleb Green on guitar, Anthony Brocatto on guitar, Derek Lamoreaux on bass, and James Friedman on drums. Smilin Isaac.
To Time
502 Sessions, I'm here with Smilin Isaac. Am I pronouncing that right? It's not Smiling Isaac, right? It's
Smilin.
Smilin Isaac. And it's Corinne Elicone. She's holding the mic right now, so if you don't mind out. But there's no leader here. You write everything together?
Yes, it's a very collaborative effort. A lot of times, a lot of the melody is written by Caleb and Anthony here, and then of course James writes his own drum parts, and Derek is on bass and he writes his own parts, and I write the lyrics and the melody of the lyrics.
So anyone is free to bring in a tune?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very open and to just anybody's ideas that they want to bring for this project. And, you know, we find that at the end of the process, it comes out as something different. It comes out as a Smilin Isaac tune and not necessarily an individual's tune.
Now, I know I wasn't going to ask this question, but I have to ask, Smilin Isaac, what's the name? Where's the name come from?
So, I work at a cemetery, and I love cemeteries, and one cemetery in Newton has a tombstone for a man named Isaac Fuller. And the logo that we have, which is a death's head, is what you call it, on a tombstone, is just a winged skull, is a Smilin Isaac because of the eternal smile of a skull.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
That's the name of the band. So let's talk through some of the tunes. So they are band heavy tunes. And what I mean by that is you're up front, but it's not all about Corinne. And it's not all about the guitar solos. And no offense, gentlemen. Right? So it really is a collaborative math rock sound. Does that make sense? You know, it's not a show like it's the Corinne show.
Right.
And actually, you don't even start with the vocals a lot of time. The band has an intro or...
Very rarely, actually, will we just open up a song with vocals. I mean, Anthony and Caleb could probably talk more about why they use the structure that they use.
Okay, let's hear something.
So a lot of the structures that we use is like the same thing with odd time signatures, complex dissonant chords. We try to structure our songs in a way that's a little bit non-traditional as well. So we don't through compose necessarily.
Wait, you don't through compose?
Through composing is when you write a song totally from start to finish without repeating anything, without repeating phrases, without repeating, choruses or verses. We don't quite do that, but we do try to make it a little bit non-traditional with the structure of the song. Like the second song we played, Clyde, we called it Clyde in the beginning. It's this time last week we had like running names for a long time when we were writing the songs. We only repeat like 2 parts of that song, and there are many parts. So we try to kind of like make that, that fun for us, feel very fluid to a listener.
Is it non-traditional intentionally, like we have to make this non-traditional, or it comes out that way?
A little bit of both. I think a large part of it is just the voices that we've kind of done as songwriters and musicians. But also it's like, I can only speak for myself, but I've always kind of been personally opposed to like the plug and play formula of song structuring where it's like, oh great, you have a verse and you have a chorus and you have a verse and you have a bridge and you have a chorus and then cool.
So am I to assume you did not take that how to write a hit song course at Berkeley?
I failed that one actually.
Did you take it?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. But it's kind of where we come from. I come from at least.
Yeah. Another thing that, we like as well is it kind of keeps it interesting for us because we want to be challenged. Like what I like personally is to like, and I know you do too, and all of us as well, like to challenge ourselves as performers, songwriters, artists. And it's always kind of nice to work on something that is a little bit off kilter in some way, but still make it like you can tap your foot to it, I don't know. It's kind of been one of the most fun parts of this project, besides, of course, working with all of my best friends and my partner. Like, it's really great.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So how long has the band been around? Who wants to say that? Has it always been you 5?
No. It kind of just started off as Corinne, Anthony, and I, knowing that we needed more members. We started playing, I think, 2 years ago. We had our first show a year ago. And yeah, the first year and a half of our band was us just writing, I think. yeah, just getting our set really tight. And after we wrote like 1 or 2 songs, James joined the group, and we knew he would, but he didn't always live in Boston. And then we needed a bass player, and Derek was the natural choice. He's a close friend of all of us. He's very experienced in touring bands on his own.
Let's talk about what some of your influences are, because it says, you know, you told me you're heavily influenced by math rock and jazz. So I guess define math rock for someone that doesn't understand what's going on here. Or name a group. So
I think Hella was a big influence for me in terms of math rock. Math rock was a term that was kind of coined in like late 90s, early 2000s of a group of bands coming out of like the Central and Northern California scene. But it was kind of like the 21st century's response to progressive rock. You know, like, okay, we have 7 down, but can we play in mixed meter? Frequent changes that don't necessarily feel like they're associated, but kind of looking at implied rhythm to kind of bind everything together.
So you write a phrase and you write a phrase. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So if it ends up being 15/8, just because you stop, that's the end of the phrase, that's the end of the phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of tangential to that statement about like that plug and play formula of songwriting, meter and the way that we experience it is also very, I don't want to say contrived, but it hasn't changed very much in the history of music, several thousand years. Is Western music, especially the past several hundred. I feel like everybody's so keen on internalizing that 3 and 4, but you know, you start to throw a little bit of asymmetry in there.
In popular music.
Yeah.
Yeah, in popular music, that's definitely been.
Specifically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Corinne?
Oh, I just wanted to add that we have a lot of people who come to our shows and approach us afterwards and say, you know, I thought this was going really well, and then I tried to tap my foot to it or dance to it, and I had trouble finding the one. And so I think that it's been one of the comments that cracked me up.
Let's hear some more music. Actually, we'll come back and I'll talk writing a little bit more. But how about some more music first?
Sounds great.
All right. 502 Sessions. My guest today is Smilin Isaac. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
faceless in a desperate crowd. Counting heads, I might doze off for a while. Why do they remind me of the flowers on your kitchen tile?
502 Sessions, I'm back with Smilin Isaac and Corinne, Corinne, Anthony, Caleb, James, and Derek. Yay!
Yes, sir.
Yay me. Let's talk a little more writing now. Does anybody ever bring in a full song? So you would bring in a full piece and somebody would bring it in and teach it to everybody else? It's not always collaboration? I mean, I understand you're free to make up your own parts, but someone's come in with a full-born...
With the majority of our songs, the way we've kind of done it in the past has been Caleb and Anthony will work on an idea that they'll get from jamming, improvising, and then they'll kind of roughly fit it to a structure and have it develop as a song. So emotionally going to, a climax and then kind of dipping down again. And then they'll kind of have a loose structure and they'll bring it to us. And then I'll kind of tweak that structure to make room for lyrics. And then we get the whole band involved, and Derek and James will write their parts, and it just kind of becomes a song. What's funny about our writing, I think, is that we never really don't usually agree that a song is finished. It just kind of is like, it's ready to play out. So I think that's...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will... Oh, go ahead, Cal.
I'm sorry.
Anthony.
I just credit where credit's due. The Whole World is Liquid, which this was the premiere for, actually, in front of people. That was actually the first piece that was entirely composed, brought to us by the group, and it was done so by Corinne. It was one of her originals. Vocal line, melody, chords had already been kind of written in the past, and over the past couple weeks, we've been adding additional chord structure and melody, and just kind of bringing that initial vision and kind of like throwing a defibrillator on it and really...
So that was non-collaborative, but collaborative. So who wants to talk about that?
Right. I mean, when we say collaborative in specifics to this song, we're talking more about, I didn't literally write the drum part. That song is a few years old. I wrote it when I was in college, and it's kind of just been, it's one of the songs that I thought would be good for this project because it's very moldable, because it just kind of is probably our most straightforward in terms of structure song. It just kind of goes verse, chorus, So we kind of tried to tweak it a little bit and jazz it up. So.
And melodically, it's hard to define, I guess, because of course when you start singing, that has to be melodic, but that's not really the melody. You wouldn't say that's the melody of the tune, because with the guitars, that's always melody too. Right. So, let's hear from Caleb. He seems to have a...
There's a couple different ways that I look at it.
Okay.
I mean, there is a lead line when Corinne is singing. It's highlighted, but oftentimes, except for The Whole World is Liquid, it isn't the first thing that's written. So there are passages that are supposed to be instrumental passages that just are by themselves instrumental, but there's almost like a two-part counterpoint going on. Like the vocals are sometimes playing with the guitars, where the vocals kind of leave like a long sustain and the guitars are responding in their own way. So I kind of like to see it, in my view, as something that's sort of, again, almost playful sometimes.
When you talk about counterpoint between the two guitars, is that orchestrated or is that improvised? And you must have some things that are orchestrated specifically for the phrasing, but then you also open up in solo, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, look, let's share the mic.
We're going to share the mic now.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to break out into harmony, that'd be great too.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of both. We tend to create kind of skeletal structures, and then the live performance itself is kind of like adding a cardiovascular system and a nervous system. So it's like we kind of know where we're going. How we get there sometimes changes. And then there's obviously sections that are just entirely improvisational. Caleb's solos, which he always shreds apart. But apart from that, our playing is kind of inherently ornamental, and so those little flourishes are kind of whatever I'm feeling, and I'm presuming the same for Caleb.
Yeah, this kind of becomes organic because the way that sometimes I look at it, and I'm sure you guys all agreed, is that like it's a big balancing act in some ways, and like we're like right on the brink of like, pushing the balance into a different place kind of all the time. It's kind of how I like to think about it. But, you know, you just kind of see how your part can fit. And a lot of times in rehearsals, these songs have evolved for a long time, even when after we've decided that they were like gig ready. They've evolved, new parts have come on, new textures, new things kind of always sort of slowly make their way into even our oldest songs.
What's a song that maybe you brought in that was, so you work things out jamming together, so you rehearse together, the two of you specifically?
Yep.
So when you're working out the counterpoint lines, I'll use that phrase, is it literally one of you is playing a line and the other one starts to improvise a line and then that becomes locked in as part of the structure?
That's pretty spot on. A song that I sort of realized a little bit of the structure of was this time last week.
Which is the name of a song?
Yes, which is the name of a song. I start that song with like kind of a really fast guitar line, and then Anthony comes in with a metric modulation kind of there, mixed meter, where I'm playing in 6 and he's playing in 5. But like the melody of those two parts took a little bit of tweaking and was realized in an improv session. Yeah.
And this is your project. Smilin Isaac is your project. But
Yeah.
are there other projects that you work on that are more traditional, or do you devote your time just to this so you don't dilute your art, so to speak?
Well, James and I are both jazz musicians as well. We go to school for it. We've played together in a lot of different things. You can probably fill in a little bit in some of the stuff that you do.
Yeah. I try and play as much as possible. Smilin Isaac is definitely one of the main things that I do. But I'm always looking to expand my musicality with playing different styles of music. Yeah.
And what kind of audiences are you, that's not the right question. I was going to say, what kind of audiences are you going for? Because whoever appreciates your music is the audience you want, right?
Sure.
So where do you find an outlet?
Thank you for being here for us.
Yeah,
You're welcome. 502 Sessions is all about original music, so I'm more than happy.
Yeah.
But there are numerous clubs around town that also showcase original music, and they don't want the same old stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone's looking for Smilin Isaac, where are they looking?
Lowell predominantly.
Yeah.
Lowell.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're gigging most. We love playing at Uncharted Gallery. I think that's kind of where we've had the most success in meeting like-minded people and also playing shows for people that go nuts for what we do. And so that's been, for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but that's been kind of the biggest feeling of like community that I've experienced in this project, was in that area.
Yeah. In terms of like a type of music that, you know, I feel close to that people might maybe agree with is like we kind of in some ways try to push the, I guess this term independent rock, because of like a lot of that early 2000s like independent rock was because of like self-releasing. But like we kind of identify in some ways as like progressive independent rock, kind of like pushing that genre that like is very palatable and has a lot of great lush textures in a slightly more progressive direction sometimes. So in that vein, a lot of people who have been into that sort of music have also found us to be in their, you know, in their taste.
So you're here and you play live shows. What about recordings and anything else? I'm sure people can just go on YouTube and check out Smilin Isaac, but what if they want something that's much better than that, like a download or a CD or however it works?
Well, Derek and I both do audio engineering, so we did some of our earliest demos that are on Bandcamp, but we actually just finished tracking and mixing our 5-song EP at Mystic Valley Studios in Medford. Recorded it all to tape. It was a lot of fun, and that'll be out on Spotify, Bandcamp. We do have songs on Spotify right now as well, but that'll be released. Yeah.
So just go to Smilin Isaac. Just go to Spotify and search Smilin Isaac,
Yep.
or search you individually by name? Or?
If you go to Spotify and search Smilin Isaac, you'll find us definitely with the with some of our previous stuff that we've done, some of our early demos, but also this EP. It will be there. Yep.
So let me ask 2 questions based on what you just said. One's about audio engineering and one's about recording. So I'm a live kind of musician. I like to play a live show. I like live recordings. It's more difficult on the audio engineer because you're not isolated. But there's a certain energy. When you say you went into the studio and recorded, it's such a band that collaborates live, if you know what I'm saying. You're working off each other. So did you record live in the studio, or did you track things? How did you work that out? I'm just curious now from...
Yeah, no, of course. In the studio, when we recorded the full EP, we recorded dubbing, so piece by piece.
You did?
In some of our demos, we recorded live, some of the ones that are out. But yeah, because we're a live band, I think one of the benefits of how we decided to record our official EP was we recorded it to tape with an engineer who was doing all analog. So it gave us an opportunity to kind of really like hone in on some of that live aspect of playing a full take and not worrying about editing so much and having the edits be destructive as opposed to like being able to move this little part on a computer screen. No, it was all hard line kind of stuff. So that was really grounding for me, who loves playing live and views this project in some ways as defined by the live music, because that's what we like to do.
502 Sessions, my guest today has been Smilin Isaac with Corinne Elicone on vocals and keyboard, Anthony Brocatto on guitar, Caleb Green on guitar, James Friedman on drums, and Derek Lamoreaux on bass. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 502 Sessions is all about original music, so if you're a musician and you're in a band, or actually even if you're a soloist or you have a duo, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I welcome all styles of music, and I check out links and I respond to emails. 502sessions@gmail.com.
disarming.